So this is the first part of your project. It'll say take a slogan and make it a conditional statement. How do you make it a conditional statement? By writing the word if, something, comma, then something else. So a hypothesis and a conclusion are the two things that make up your statements. Now, if you want to cheat and use this thing called shorthand notation, you can use P and Q. So hypothesis is represented by the letter P, and the conclusion is represented by the letter Q. Does it matter if you use P or Q or H or C or A or B? No. They just decided that P was the hypothesis and Q was the conclusion. So this is an example of a conditional statement. If P, then Q. And you could write anything you wanted there. So someone generate a conditional statement for me.
Anything?
Anything. All right, it's almost so easy, it's hard. If close. If you're in the library, then you're the librarian. Cool, right? That's a conditional statement. You have to say, if this happens, then this happens. If you're in the library, then you're a librarian. False. Okay? So, here's two examples. If it's raining, then there are clouds in the sky. Right? I need you guys to tell me what is the hypothesis of the first statement, what is the conclusion of the first statement. And this is a test question. Yay or I'm scared? Yay? So if it's raining, then there are clouds in the sky. What is the hypothesis of the first statement?
That they're clouds.
What? What? It's. The hypothesis is it's. Yes. So look, this if is not part of the hypothesis. It is just it's raining. The hypothesis is it's raining. If holds the hypothesis and then holds the conclusion. So I could say hypothesis. It's raining. Wow. If it is hypothesis, it is raining. Conclusion. There are clouds in the sky. And I like to do it like this, guys. It makes sense to me. I do one line for the hypothesis and two lines for the conclusion. I have colors too. And why is it important to know what the hypothesis and what the conclusion is? Because to write a set of conditional statements, you have to start moving those pieces around, right? Sometimes people like to do it like this. What is the hypothesis of if two angles are vertical, then they are congruent? What's the hypothesis? So this is the hypothesis, and then what's the conclusion? You can circle it too. That kind of helps you see what is what, right? And this is your quiz, right? I'm going to give you a conditional statement, and you're going to have to say, this is the conditional statement, this is the converse, this is the inverse, this is the contrapositive, this is the hypothesis, this is the conclusion. Okay. I want you to take this random sentence, I don't think it's in your notes, and I want you to make this random sentence a conditional statement. Now, here's where people always get really creative with math, or let's just say English. Your sentence has to make sense, right? You have to be able to read your sentence. So we have this statement. All 90-degree angles are right angles. I need you to make that a conditional statement. If it's your first time writing a conditional statement, I recommend doing this. if, comma, then. That way you know you have to break it into two parts. So what do you think your hypothesis is?
If all 90 angles come then,
Ooh, it got weird, didn't it? Yes, sir.
all right angles are 90 degrees.
What happened? I can't even English right now. What are we trying to say? What, like, just try it. You know, do you have to use all the words and just add the word if and just add the word then? You have to make it make sense. So, allow me to illuminate. If an angle is 90 degrees, then the angle is a right angle. Is that the only way to do it? You could say then it's a right angle, couldn't you? So, did we use the word all at all in there? No, right? So, if an angle is 90 degrees, this is pretty much all we used. If it's 90 degrees, then it's a right angle. That was tough, wasn't it? I mean, it wasn't easy. Some of you guys were like, All right, what about this one? When n equals 9, n squared equals 81.
If n equals 9, then n squared equals 8.
If n equals 9, then n squared equals 81. That wasn't as bad, was it? Because it was already broken by a comma. And that tells you if the first part, then the second part. Tourists at the Alamo are in Texas. Yes. If tourists are at the Alamo, then they are in Texas. Tourist, however you say it. I say tourist. Like guitar, however you want to say it. Cole, does this sound like it's something impossible? The reason you guys hate this, I know you're going to hate this because you have to write. Okay? It's better than mathing. So look at the positives here. Either write a sentence or do math. Right now you're going to have to write a sentence, please. And inevitably, if this is just sentences on sentences on sentences, what is your test going to look like? A lot of freaking reading. Please don't be lazy and just not do this because you're unable to spend a little bit of time and read, please. Okay. Conditional statements can be true or false. We've already talked about that. A conditional statement is false if the hypothesis is true and the conclusion is false. If you get over that, I don't care about that. And then here's where we use that counter example. We talked about counter example on Friday. So this statement, if you live in Texas, then you live in New Braunfels. And it says, please provide a counter example. I'm telling you that statement's false. Please provide a counter example.
Do you have to use if and
No, it's just a
then?
specific
So like not
example.
all people in Texas live in New
I live in Seguin.
So it has to be specific. So they don't live in New Braunfels.
Zach lives in Seguin.
So you would say counter example. Zach lives in Seguin. Very specific. You could just say people live in Seguin. Now, and this is sneaky, is the hypothesis still true? Does he still live in Texas?
Yeah.
Yes. I couldn't say Zach lives in Wisconsin, could I? No, is Wisconsin a state?
Right.
I don't know.
Yes, Wisconsin.
Where is it?
I don't know. It's north somewhere.
Zach lives in Cleveland. Does that no? Cleveland's in Ohio. Does that work here? No, so Zach still has to live in Texas, check, but he lives in Seguin, Texas. Alright, so don't just get like Zach lives in Australia. Like, that doesn't really work. I was born in Virginia. So here we call this thing a negation, right? A negation. Negation of a statement is opposite of the original. Opposite of the original. And then this is my example. So remember, what does P mean? The hypothesis. That's this part right here, the hypothesis. So if I say we love homework, now please don't fall for the trap. The hypothesis. We love homework. Now, that's what this means. Psych. Opposite of that. Now, what is opposite of the statement? We love homework.
We dislike.
No.
He is a strong word, guys.
You cannot change the statement. It's the opposite of we love homework. What? Perfect. By adding the word not. We do not love homework. So anytime you negate a statement, you are literally only adding a not or taking a not away. Okay? So let me try one more. I do not love Baker. What is the negation of I do not love Baker? I love you too, Nico. I do love Baker. Thank you. Man, I'm forcing you guys to give me compliments right now. So when you negate something, you're literally adding a not or taking a not away. That is the only way you can negate it. You cannot say I hate Baker. Does that make sense? You can't change it. Add a not or take a not away. Okay, and here's where we're going. Right? We've talked about all this stuff. What is a conditional statement? What is a negation? What is a hypothesis? What is a conclusion? So, the first thing you're going to have to do in your project is write this thing called a converse. A converse of a statement is the exchange of the hypothesis and the conclusion. Guys, here's how you converse something. Are you ready? It is written, if it is raining, then there are clouds in the sky. That is your conditional statement. To write the converse, you do this. Now it reads, if there are clouds in the sky, then you just switch them. That is all you do. So it is important to know what is the hypothesis and what is the conclusion so you can do this. Boop, like that. So what is the converse of this conditional statement?
If there are clouds in the sky.
If does that make sense? So at this point in your project, you'd be 60 points plus to your name. 60.
Just from that sentence.
Yeah.
Oh, that's it,
Right? Because
60.
you have to have a statement, an original statement, then you have to write it as a conditional statement, then you have to do the converse. That's 20, 40, 60 points. It's not hard.
5 statements, right?
5 statements. There's 3 of them.
Where do you want it?
And I'm going to give you all that stuff later, okay? So is anybody confused or are not happy with that?
No.
No? We good? Okay. So an inverse. Now, an inverse of a statement is the negation of the hypothesis and conclusion. Now, when we write an inverse, you always go back to your original conditional statement. You guys are going to want to go back to this one on accident. That is not your original. What is this one? That's the converse. You have to be able to kind of go back and forth. You go back to your original statement and you negate it. It is not the hypothesis, comma, not the conclusion. For your inverse, all you do is add nots or take away nots. So if the statement is, if it is raining, then there are clouds in the sky. What is the inverse of that conditional statement? If it is not raining, and I underline the knots so I can verify that they have been added in the correct spots. So, conditional statement. If it is raining, then there are clouds in the sky. The converse. If there are clouds in the sky, then it is raining. So your inverse. Go back to your original statement and you negate it. If it is not raining, there are not clouds in the sky. What is the only thing I haven't done yet? I did this. I did this. But what have I not done?
Switch those inverse.
I haven't done the Macarena yet, right? So that's the last one, and the one that you guys generally hate the most, the contrapositive. It's a weird word, contrapositive. You don't know what it means. The contrapositive, you first write the converse. And then you negate both the hypothesis and conclusion. So I like to say, and this is for me, and it might be one of you guys, the converse is a switch, the inverse is a flip, so the contrapositive is a switch and a flip. So you have to switch these and add the knots at the same time. So it has to be if not the conclusion, then not the hypothesis. It's the last one. So what is the contrapositive of the statement? If it is raining, then there are clouds in the sky. Switch them.
If there are not clouds.
If there are not Does that kind of make sense? I understand y'all. I don't see why, what the purpose of this is. It's just getting you guys to think. Think. So, here is just one sentence, and we're going to do your whole project, your entire project right here. So you can write this, or it might be more beneficial for you just to watch and follow along. Right? This is my conditional statement. I need to write the converse, the inverse, and the contrapositive. Okay? So each of these are worth 20 points. Your original statement, Great Danes are large. That would be your original statement. And you would say the conditional statement is if it's a Great Dane, then it's large. Your converse is your switch. So what's the converse of the statement? If a dog is a Great Dane, then it is large. make sense? So I have hypothesis, conclusion, hypothesis. They just switch spots. What about the inverse? Remember to write your inverse. You go back to your original conditional statement. If a dog is not a Great Dane, then it is not large. That's just adding knots. If a dog is not a Great Dane, then it is not large. Guys, this should be an easy 100.
What about the negation?
This is the negation.
Oh,
So the inverse is negating the hypothesis and the
so
conclusion.
you don't need to put that as like a separate.
No. Right, and the contrapositive. That is when you switch them and you flip them. Is it, yeah? If a dog is not large, it is not a Great Dane. So with this one, you can negate your converse, or you can go back and then you can write the converse and then negate it, right? Or switch it and flip it. Guys, that's your whole project. We did that in less than 5 minutes. And the good thing about your project is you get to create what you want to write about. Okay? Well, alright, so let me give you guys your project and we can look at it real quick. I'm giving this to you today. I'm picking this up on Friday. If you get it done early, you can turn it early. But I need you guys to turn this paper in with your project because it has how I graded on the back. That makes sense? That way I can add or subtract points as I see fit.
So that's 100.
And you'll see it on the back. No, that right there is not 100. That's only. Oh no, it's not. I don't want to confuse it. This one.
Will jokes be included?
Jokes? Yeah, if you want to write a joke on your project, I'll take that. Okay, so if you write on here, due Fridays, 9/20, September 20th, Friday. You have enough? JD. So it says within media, companies are always looking to promote their product. For example, in advertising, Chevy says Chevy, like a rock. Right? They want you to think that if it's a Chevy, then it's like a rock. Why would they want you to think that?
Because rocks are tough.
Rocks are tough, indestructible. They're trying to relay the message that a particular vehicle has the same characteristics of a rock. It's indestructible. You look at a magazine, a newspaper, online, billboard, or draw something for yourself. And it says, for a magazine and newspaper, cut out what you find, and you'll paste it at the top of your project, or you can draw something by yourself. And most people just go on the internet and type in Chevy and then steal it and print it at the top of their paper. I'm fine with that. That means a diagram, a picture must be included with your poster. Alright? Sheet of paper, whatever. Write your slogan on your project. That is worth 10 points. Writing the actual slogan. Okay? Is your slogan going to be an if-then statement? Probably not. Is Chevy like a rock an if-then statement? No. Writing your slogan is worth 10 points. That is statement number 1. Rewrite your slogan as a conditional statement. That's step number 2. Take your slogan and rewrite it as an if-then statement. Write the converse, the inverse, and the contrapositive. Tell me if each statement is true or false. Tell me, true or false. Most people forget that one. That's minus 10 points because they don't put T or F. Your advertisement should fit on a regular sheet of paper, something like this, and then include your name and date. So here's my project, the whole thing. It's a digital version. Slogan, Chevy, like a rock. They don't have a picture. Stole it right from the internet. You can even see it says 2008 SEMA built. I just stole it. My conditional statement. If it's a Chevy, then it's like a rock. Like Converse. If it's like a rock, then it's a Chevy. Inverse. If it's not a Chevy, it's not like a rock. Contrapositive. If it's not like a rock, then it's not a Chevy. Boom. What is the only thing I'm missing here?
True or false.
True or false? Generally, if their slogan is, if it's a Chevy, then it's like a rock. That's going to be true, because the slogan said true. But if it's like a rock, is it a Chevy? No, it could be just a rock. A piece of shale, okay? If it's not a Chevy, it's not like a rock. Well, if it's not a Chevy, it's generally, it's false. Generally it goes true, false, false, true. These two will have the same truth value. These two will have the same truth value. So it goes true, false, false, true. Generally. True, false, false,
You
true.
don't have to use that slogan.
No, you have to use your own. Yeah, but guess what you can't use? You cannot use this one. Off limits. Period. If you use this one, I will make you redo your project. Hard facts. So you can take a picture of this, it's fine. It gives you an exact of what happens. Guys, it's also on your paper down here. It tells you what the converse is. It says if conclusion, then hypothesis. If not the conclusion, then not the hypothesis. It tells you the little cheat sheet at the bottom. I also like to show you guys this one. Oh, Ricky Bobby. Now, I show you this for a lot of different reasons. This is also off limits. You can't take Ricky Bobby. The slogan is, if you're not first, then you're last. Well, guess what? That's already a conditional statement. So what do I do for my conditional statement? I just copy it. If you're not first, then you are last. True or false? False. If you're not first, you're last.
No.
If you're not first, you could be second. Okay? So this is false. If you are last, then you're not first.
True.
That's true. If you are first, then you're not last.
True.
True. If you are not last, then you're first.
False.
So you see how they have the first and last statements have similar truth values. Generally it goes true, false, false, true. This one goes false, true, true, false. Now, if you are not first, then you're last. Look at the inverse. If you are first, then you're not last. And this one has a not in the statement already. So you have to take a not away and you have to add a not on the other side, depending on what it is. Please be creative. On the back, neatness, 10 points. The computer nails that one. If you can type it out, great. If you want to write it out, great. I mean, you might be able to finish this today. Grab a marker and just write it out pretty. That's 10 points for neatness. Do you have a picture? 10 points. Do you have a slogan? 10 points. Did you write your if-then statement, converse, invert, contrapositive? True and false is 10 points total. That's 5 points or 10 points for all four statements. Creativity is the one where people will lose things. If you do Chevy and you do Chevy and you do Chevy and you do Chevy, is that very creative? No, right? And if you turn it on time, it's 10 points. The extra credit is the biconditional statement, which you don't know about yet. We're going to talk about that tomorrow. You can only make a biconditional statement if something very special happens. So unless you wait until tomorrow to see what biconditional is, you can't get those extra credit points. Does that make sense? You have to know what it is to be able to force your project to do that. Now, I'm going to take another one off the table. This is off limits. Subway, right? Because the slogan for Subway is Subway, eat fresh. If it's Subway, then you eat fresh. If you eat fresh, then it's Subway. If it's not Subway, then you do not eat fresh. If you do not eat fresh, then it's not Subway. Guys, there's your whole project right there. It's super basic. You just slap a Subway wrapper, you glue that on your deal, you write true or false, you're 100. It's easy. So, if in the event that your first test grade was not where you wanted it to be, this is a major grade, and it's just going to pull that average up, or someone's not going to turn in, and it's going to suck your average down. Guys, this should either be 100, a 90, an 80, or probably a meaning 0. You guys have 5 days to write 5 sentences. I don't know how much greater this can get, right? Anything on a white sheet of paper, I'll even take something like this, right? Item drawn on the top, you write your 5 sentences at the bottom. If you want to slap some color on there, that's fine, okay? But please don't tell your friends what your deal is. I have so many ideas, and I don't want to give them away. Yes, sir.
Does it have to be an existing slogan or can we make one up?
So the more I talk about it, the more someone's probably gonna want to steal your idea. So if you have a particular question like, hey Baker, can I do this? Come ask me, like, yeah, that's golden, or like, ooh, maybe not. Does that make sense? Like video games, people use music lyrics all the time. Anything that's just out in the world. Like for girls, makeup stuff was popular. For boys, it was like clothing brands, shoe brands, basketball, everything like that. That kind of makes sense. Because the world is your oyster here. Anything that is a sentence that you can put if this then that, and you're good to go. Alright. Tomorrow we'll do biconditional statements, and then Wednesday we'll take a quiz. And your quiz is, here is a statement. It's been rewritten, and it'll say Converse, and it'll have this statement written. You have to match those two up. Number 2 is B. Number 4 is C. Like that, matching a statement to what it was written over there. And then there's 2 patterns, and then there's something else in there. That's pretty much it. I feel like y'all kind of got this down. Most of you guys know how to do it. But if I ask you, what is this one? Can you do that?
That's the conjugate.
That's the contrapositive. All right, or what is this one? That's the inverse. And what's this one?
Oh, we know. Conditional.
This is just your conditional statement. What's this one? Converse. Right, so it's be able to go back and forth. Because on your test, it'll say, here is a statement, and it'll say A, B, C, or D. Which one is this one? Right? It'll say which one is the contrapositive. You have to say, okay, the one that's written like this. I have to give you guys homework that I didn't give you last week. I do. You're only going to be able to finish like 1 through 19, right? And you don't have to do all of these to say you know what you're doing. It's just practice. There's statements there already. The first part's patterns. The second part is like, what is the hypothesis? What is the conclusion? And the last part is actually write out the converse, the inverse, and the contrapositive. If y'all need help with this, you can come in during WIN and ask me for help. I'll kind of help you, walk you through it. Some people have found on the computer, you can just copy the hypothesis and paste it, copy the conclusion and paste it, move it around everywhere you want to.
What's this do?
I'm going to pick up this homework on Wednesday, because after you use it on your quiz, you shouldn't really need it anymore. Alright, I didn't give it to you on Friday, trying to be nice. So I would say on the back, if you wanted to do like 2 of those, there's no reason to write 16 sentences. You just want to do like 2 of those, that's probably more than enough. Kind of makes sense. It says write the converse, inverse, and contrapositive. Pick 2 of those. Just pick any 2 you want. Everything else is pretty easy. tomorrow. There's kind of a general cheat sheet. The conditional statement is if hypothesis, then conclusion. The converse is if conclusion, then hypothesis. The inverse is if not hypothesis, then not conclusion. The contrapositive is if not conclusion, then not hypothesis. You guys can